Okay, so my action research project is student learning styles versus teacher learning styles or teacher styles and meeting the needs of students. I usually teach the way I learn because it's easy for me. I think we all do that. And sometimes we forget who's in our classroom. They're not like us. So this action research project touches upon that. So again, the purpose of the action research is to identify the extent which learning styles influence the educational process as well as the outcome of students in terms of academic achievement. I think, okay. Sorry, how do I?
You might just have to scroll using the mouse since it's like a, so like, yeah, the computer mouse.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine.
So basically this correlates with Southside SIP goals, using research-based instructional strategies to enhance student engagement and academic achievement. So my question was, is there a significant relationship between the degree of match as determined by comparing learning styles, preference of students with instructional strategies of teachers, and achievement in the classroom? So the types of data that supports this is student surveys, instructional strategy record sheet that I filled out, compilation checklist for instructional strategies, which I made, and cumulative accommodation data sheet. My participants were 6th through 8th grade from Southside Middle School and my general music classes. The timeline for this project was completed in 3 weeks. So the resources and methods that I implemented, I researched teaching and learning styles and tried to incorporate the variety of teaching styles specific to the student's learning style. I attempted to explore the relationship between academic achievement and the teacher instructional strategies versus the student learning strategies or learning styles. So I observed individuals and groups. I used audio recordings on their Chromebooks. I used semi-structured interviews, took field notes, and distributed questionnaires. So we all have a way in which we best learn. Odds are every student in your class has a different preferred learning style, which can make it difficult for you to be the most effective teacher. By trying to incorporate various methods into your teaching, you may be able to reach the majority of your students. So instead of focusing on my action research data, I usually, because you could probably care less of what I do music-wise, because it doesn't really pertain to you. So I'm kind of looking at this as sharing what I did with my research. So hopefully you'll see what I'm going for. There are visual and verbal learners. 60% of the population are visual learners. So you'll have students that that work better being seen or observe things like using pictures, diagrams, demonstrations, displays, handouts. They have phrases like, show me how to do this. Let's have a look at what you're doing so I can copy. And then you have verbal learners, and they get more out of words, written and spoken explanations. The verbal learner always enjoys writing summaries or outlines. I actually like to do outlines of everything. It just helps my brain structure things. And interpreting it in their own words. Accommodating teaching strategies for visual and verbal learners. I have a long list, so I'll just highlight a few. Highlight and color code books, notes organized to relate to material, have students pick out key words or ideas of their own writing, write out checklists or formulas, misspelled words, write down materials on slips of paper, basically using an organizer, pretty much. Then we have auditory learners, and then some characteristics of that are the learning style has a preference to transfer information through listening, spoken word, noises. This is a lot of music. People are kind of auditory learners. They'll use phrases to tell me, or let's talk through this. These are the people who are happy being given spoken instructions. So you don't have to write anything on the board. You just tell them what to do, and they do it. I'm one of those people too, unless I'm really tired, and then I'm a mess. Accommodating teaching strategy for auditory learners. I'll highlight a few. Have them tape lectures or review them with you. A lot of times I have students use their Chromebook and use their voice recorder. It helps them when they go separately or in small groups to go back and listen to the directions. Read material out loud, having put material to a rhythm or tune, rehearse it out loud. I go back to my high school, and in my English class in high school, I can still remember my sophomore teacher teaching the gerund song. I can do anything and I can do, and I have to be really off key because that's what she did. Or the infinitive, to plus the verb is an infinitive. I still have that in my head, and it's been many years since I've been in high school. So these things stick with you. Tactile learner, touching, feeling, holding, doing, practical hands-on experiences. A lot of us are that type of learner as well. They'll say, let me try. Don't show me, I want to try to do it myself. A lot of times they don't look at the instructions first. So those are the type of the people that they buy something from IKEA and they don't bother with the instructions and they just build their thing. They can use textured paper for experiments, different sizes of pens, pencils, they role play. You can have them envision the scene and then they can act it out somehow. Take notes. In one of my general music classes, what I did was I played them a piece of music and I wanted them to just, when the music went higher, they just drew a pencil and went up and down so you could see the overall form of the music. Or they do it by color. If they hear a specific thing, they have a specific color, and when they hear something else, they do a different color. So it's very visual, but they're actually doing something while the music's playing. And using body movement, snapping, fingers, pacing, things like that. Then you have the active reflective learners. Let's try it out and see how it works. Let's think through it first. Active learners tend to retain and understand information by doing something with it, something active with it. Reflective learners prefer to think about it quietly first. So a lot of times you're looking at those reflective people and you're like, are they really getting it? Because they're very quiet. Yes. So they're just kind of thinking through things and they're kind of mulling it over in their heads, and then you'll see some action. Accommodating teaching strategies for the active learner. You can talk about material learned with family and friends, compensate for lack of discussion by scheduling regular meetings. They're the ones where you kind of have to keep after, using small increment intervals of just kind of touching base. I'll call it like that, touching base. And then the reflective learner, schedule time to reflect on material. Don't just read, have them stop and review and think about things and then go on. Then you have sensing and intuitive learners. Sensing learners can remember and understand information, seeing how it connects to the real world. Sensory learners need specific examples and concepts and procedures, and they need to find out how they apply in practice. And then intuitive learners remember and understands interpretations and theories that link to facts. They find their own connections, so they do the most of the work themselves. Sensing learners tend to like facts, often likes problem solving problems by well-established methods, dislike complications and surprises. Can't throw in a component, they just need their structure. Intuitive learners prefer to discover the possibilities in relationships. And I know that you've probably seen each one of these learners in your classroom. Then last is sequential and global learners. The sequential learners tend to gain understanding in linear steps, with each step following a logical process. And then global learners tend to learn in large jumps, absorbing the material almost randomly without any connections. So my project, students took a student survey about their own learning style. So I have on my paper on the second page, I believe, or down at the bottom of the first page, there are websites. You can get on the websites. There's tons of them. And some of them are more fun than others. And have the students actually answer the questions, and it will come up with what type of learning style they are best. Sometimes it crosses over, but they'll have the 2 or 3, they rank them first, second, third. I collected, interpreted the data. I researched on the internet the topics of the student learning styles and the teacher styles, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then I made an instructional strategy record sheet specific to my content area based on the research. I took a teaching style online survey myself. That way I definitely knew And I was right. I knew I was a tactile learner. I like my steps. I spent a total of 9 days teaching music content in my general music classes, using as many teaching techniques and instructional strategies that I could include in my strategy checklist. I also tried to use the learning styles accommodation sheet, which I have down here, and I concentrated on aligning my teaching style or the specific style to the student style. And so here were my outcomes. I had 19 students, and I assigned them. I also was kind of curious, male and female. I wanted to see what gender, to see if there was an improvement. The type of style. Now notice we have a lot of visual, tactile, and auditory learners. That's what they came up with, and a lot of them were the visual learners. The tasks: performing previously learned etudes, learning a new etude, performing new etudes in front of the class, compose an original song on the piano, compose accompaniment chords to a simple melody, invent a musical game to teach it to another student. Activities: hearing the etude being played by me, memorize the etude, listen to an example of an accompaniment on a variety of string instruments, using a Chromebook app to practice writing music and notation and sequencing sounds, peer teaching and or coaching. And then my strategy styles. This is the teacher strategy: direct instruction, explaining, storytelling, teacher modeling, drill and practice, group competitions, musical games, explaining, teacher performance, practicing and repeating. Repeat, practice and repeat, practice and repeat. Let's see. So the teaching style and techniques, we did whole class, small group, pair and share, individual, teach through hearing, competition and use of technology. And then the teaching format: teacher-directed student involvement, participating in singing, playing selected etudes, including etudes that they were interested in. A delegator, formal authority, personal model, facilitator, and expert, which is on the sheet that I just passed out. And I did see improvement. Yes, everybody had yes, improvement. There was improvement. There were somewhat improvement. Those are my ones, as previous person said, the middle of the road students or the lower performing students. It's kind of like no matter what you try, it's still kind of in that same area, okay? But they did improve. So through teacher observation, use of audio recording, a semi-structured interview, field notes, and surveys, I feel comfortable and confident to state that by matching teaching styles to student learning styles, academic improvement is a given. Students were engaged and excited to show off their composition projects, as well as trying to outperform their classmates in performing their newly mastered etudes on the piano. So in conclusion, this action research project supported the idea that by using different teaching styles and strategies and matching the different student learning styles in my classroom, increased academic achievement will be achieved, and that Southside SIP goals have been met concerning enhanced student engagement and academic achievement. And then my handout here. There are a lot of things concerning teaching and student styles. It's awesome. I wanted to share more, but I only have 15 minutes. So at the top, I have a category that's teaching style. There are 5 basic preferred teaching styles, and we tend to teach the way we're most comfortable. It's easy to assume that students learn the way we teach, and we need to teach the way students learn. So the 5 teaching styles are expert, formal authority, personal model, facilitator, and delegator. And then right here are definitions of what those are. Then we have the different learning styles. And again, down at the bottom is the learning style inventory. Again, I only picked 2. There's a million of them. On the back, of course, you need your multiple intelligences. And then it was information handling domains. So active, reflective, sensing and intuitive, visual, verbal, sequencing, global, and definitions of what those are. And then actually there's more things to consider in your classroom. Diversity and cultural impacts. So Hispanic American learning styles, Mexican Americans, African American learning styles. They tend to excel at relational, peer-oriented, prefers to work cooperatively. Asian learning styles, adult assumptions, barriers to adult learning. Because some of our students, even though they're middle school age, sometimes they're the adults in the family. Then it kind of was very interesting on the Generation X and Y and what they grew up with TV, movies, and video games. That has an impact in your classroom and how they learn. Gender learning characteristics. Males tend to see the world as black and white. Females don't. There's a lot of gray area. So in a nutshell, when designing your course or lesson plan, ask students to identify their learning styles, use multiple instructional strategies, learn cultural backgrounds of students, be aware of your learning style, and then give assessment choices. Are there any questions? Yes, Mia?
I have a question. Did you see a corollary with between you had the table where you separated
Yes.
them into gender?
Yes.
Did you see a correlation between male, female, and their learning styles?
I don't know if it's my subject matter. The group that that's a hard one to explain. I had a very interesting group. Very, very interesting. I think the same students that I have in class, if you have in class, you kind of know your achievers versus the ones that it's hard to get them to do anything. It was kind of the same. It didn't matter whether it was female or male. I did have one success story when I brought in the Chromebooks with the different musical activities and composing their own music. One girl surprised me. She's one that comes in and does everything to not do what we're supposed to be doing for the day. And she actually was really engaged and she really loved it. And so I actually added another 2 more days to that particular project because of how engaged she was. The other students liked it as well, but she really got into it, and she was so excited. I think it's in my other presentation. She was so excited that she emailed her project to her mom because she was very proud of what she did. So that was my success story as far as she improved a lot in that 2-week time period. So really not, I mean, it was an interesting class.